and welcome to What's Happening. I'm Gail Burke, and I'm here today with my co-host, Elliot Margolis. Our guest today is a teacher from the greater Boston area who, for obvious reasons, will not be visible. Hi, Richard, and welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for being willing to talk about education and what your students are learning or not learning. Without naming your school, tell us a little bit about your students and their parents.
So essentially, the district that I work in, it is primarily, I would say, definitely say more affluent white district. But in particular, my school, we have 8 elementary schools in our district, and the specific elementary school that I teach at, we have students. We basically serve students that are in the projects. So essentially, our student population is about 90% Black. And when I say Black, that includes people from all over the Caribbean, Central America, Africa, and so forth. So though the district is primarily white, our school primarily serves students in the families in the projects.
I see. Mm-hmm. Now, do you have a problem with language because you have such a diverse population?
So the majority of our students, their families, I would say definitely more second generation. So the majority of our students, their families are from different countries. But most of our students, they were born here. So language isn't a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so English is definitely their primary language.
Okay, so how proficient are your students in subjects like reading and math? And I know that you have to abide somewhat by Common Core, mm-hmm. But I think we talked about this a little bit, and you said you try to go around it as much as you can.
Right. So that's a really good question. So what's happening is that, it's like I said, our students are definitely, though their parents are from different countries, their primary language is English. By the fact that our schools are not pushing the academic envelope with our children, especially our children that are Black children, the curriculum is being dumbed down. And I'm just going to be very, very honest. I'm very blunt, and I just say the things how it is, and I don't like to sugarcoat anything. So essentially, yes, the curriculum is being dumbed down. But there are several factors because of this. It's not primarily just because of Common Core.
Okay.
Okay, but when you say your curriculum is being dumbed down, can you define what that really means? Like, for instance, I don't know what grade you teach, and it really doesn't matter, but let's just say, for an argument's sake, a 4th grader, but the 4th grader isn't reading up at 4th grade level. Mm-hmm. They're still going to get promoted to the 5th grade, aren't they?
Oh, yes. So I would just like to first start off and say that like I said, there are several factors of why when I say the curriculum is being dumbed down. The first factor is because there's something called IEPs, individual educational plans. And what that essentially says politically is that us teachers, we have to differentiate our curriculum based upon the student's needs, okay? But in reality, what that means is that the teacher is dumbing down or changing the curriculum or doing other alternative things so that child could have access to the certain material that's being taught in schools. Honestly, it's essentially just saying that basically lowering the standards. And not just the district that I work in, but also this is across the board, is that there is a high percentage of Black students being put on this IEP program, this IEP individual educational plan. And it's because a lot of these teachers do not know what to do. They don't know how to handle the children. They don't know what to do. So they put these kids on these individual educational plans so that they have an excuse to why these children are not doing well academically. So
does that mean that they are put into special ed?
Exactly. They're exactly in my specific district, but also this is nationwide and statewide. There are children of colors, primarily Black children, Black boys. There is a huge they're being overdiagnosed. It's because the expectation in terms of discipline is extremely low, and these teachers don't know what to do with them. So what happens is that because there's no discipline in the system, and they don't know how to handle these kids in the classroom. So what they do is they put these kids on, they say that they're special needs, and they put them on this educational plan, and they're being coddled and pushed through the system.
That's awful.
Okay, so a couple of questions here. Number one is, are you telling me because you have to scale down what you're doing for some of these kids, that the brighter kids are actually losing out?
Exactly. And that's I'm actually glad you talked about that, because now what's happening in these liberal run districts, is that they're taking away something called their tier system. I don't know if you're familiar with tiering. So essentially, when you see that a kid, I would say by 5th grade, you start to see that a kid has a special gift in certain skills, such as math or science and so forth. So that naturally, you would put this child in an advanced math course by 6th grade. And then you help them fine-tune their skills so that they become expertise. Now what's happening in these liberal-run districts is that all children are in the same course. All children, no child essentially is better than the other. So therefore, those children who are doing well academically are put in the same classroom with kids that they just don't give no craps about school.
Yeah.
So therefore, kids are kids regardless. Why would a kid, and then naturally kids will follow their peers because they have peer pressure. So they're put in a classroom with kids that don't care about math. So therefore, naturally, what's going to happen? You have these these kids that potentially could do well academically, who are basically following their peers who just don't care about school. So you don't see high achievement happening.
Yeah, it's much easier.
It's much easier.
Very little.
Exactly.
Now, the other part of my question was with the discipline. My perspective is part of education is discipline. And like when you're playing sports, a coach can yell at a kid. Coach can tell a kid what he has to do, or put a kid on the bench because he's not doing it. How is that different in the classroom?
It is much different because, and actually in my district, I can't speak for other districts, but the district that I'm in, they're eliminating something called, there's a no homework policy. And I question this because I tell people all the time, or teachers who support this, tell me a discipline where it does not require any sort of practice. Any discipline that you go into requires practice. So on what planet do you believe that a child should not go home and practice math skills or reading skills? So to go back to what you're saying in terms of discipline, we're seeing this rampantly going through every district where they want to get rid of homework. They want to they're telling teachers that you can't mark or you can't grade papers with red. You can't do certain things because it's traumatic to the child. You can't raise your voice to a child because it's traumatic to the child. Or even the language that they use. Now they're telling districts that you have to call the children friends.
Friends.
I'm not doing that. Children are not my friends. They're never going to be my friends. Like by the fact that that's actually being approved and allowed is mind-boggling. But this is being pushed by leftists and universities such as Lesley, such as Harvard. All these universities that are allowing these training these teachers and allowing these teachers to go inside the public schools and push these things that are not conducive to the classroom. It's not, but it's being allowed.
It's experimenting with the kids, which they've been doing for many, many years.
Exactly.
But how do the parents react? Now, are the parents, do they know what's going on? And if they do know, are they in agreement with it?
So I can definitely say that I have my experience for teaching. I've taught in urban areas, primarily Black and Hispanic, and also in upper class white areas as well. Okay. And I would definitely say that there is a huge division. And that division is, I don't want to say necessarily, it's not necessarily racial. It's more classist. It's more economical. Why? Because you see that in more affluent areas, it doesn't really matter what happens in the school setting. Because why? Because the school setting is kind of an add-on to what they actually do outside of school, because they have resources, bring their kids to tutoring and so forth. Right. The population that actually needs and actually depends on the education system are lower class, those who are coming lower socioeconomic status. So primarily Black families here in Massachusetts. And they're the ones that are starting school from pre-K, and they give their trust into the education system and say, look, teach my child. To not only teach my child academically, but if my child is acting up in school, you're the professional. Yell at my child. You take care of it. Why are you calling me at work? Yeah. And so there's a huge disconnect with primarily these white teachers coming from universities such as Lesley, and these parents, primarily Black, coming from other countries, which are typically conservative. Let's put that out there. It's really conservative. And they come here and they're saying, why are you guys calling me? Why are you not knowing how to discipline my child when you are the expert? That doesn't make any sense. Meanwhile, when my child is at home, he doesn't act like this.
Well, what alternative do they have, Richard? Are there any charter schools in your area?
Yes, there are. We have 3 charter schools, and let's make this clear that charter schools are typically only located in urban areas. Exactly. And I want to put that out there. Why is that? Yeah. Why is that? It's because the public schools are failing Black and Latino families. Yeah. Point blank. And
educators will fight against charter schools. They want to get rid of all charter schools because of competition.
Of course, they want to get rid of it because because remember, charter schools are still getting they're publicly funded. Yeah. So all that money that's being filtered into the charter schools, the public school teachers want it. The union is fighting against it because economically it doesn't fit their narrative. So they want that money to be filtered into the public schools. But public schools are failing our kids. They are. Mm-hmm.
So you would call this the dumbing down of America?
The dumbing down of America. We are literally stripping away. We're stripping away old traditional habits in education that has always worked. Right. It's always worked, and we're taking that away. We're taking away old foundational values in education. Something simple as grammar, we're taking that away. I have kids in my classroom where they have no clue, 5th graders, they have no clue what a verb is. They have no clue what a noun is. They have no clue how to even write in cursive. That's all being stripped away.
Well, now the left is trying to say that grammar is racist. I don't get the connection at all, but that's what they're beginning to.
So here's the connection, and here's their argument. Do I agree? 100% no. Their argument is that they're trying to. You have to understand, in this political climate, the leftists, they're saying that white straight males are essentially the evil villain. Okay, so anything that's connected to the white civilization, straight male, is considered evil. So speaking correct grammar or anything that comes from British English, or not even just English, but correct Spanish, correct anything, is linked back to white supremacy Europe. Okay, so they're trying to educate or tell our kids that it's okay for a child to come into an interview and speak slang. No, like they think that's okay, or they're trying to say that I don't know if you guys are familiar with the African American vernacular, Ebonics.
Ebonics, absolutely.
That is okay. Okay, that's okay to speak at home, but there is a standard to everything. They want to eliminate standard. There's no more, they want to eliminate universal standard in terms of grammar, in terms of culture, in terms of everything. But they don't understand that they're actually doing more harm than good to kids. When the kids don't understand that there's something called code switching. Yes, I come from a different culture. I can speak a certain way at home. But once I'm in a professional atmosphere, I have to speak right. And this is not a racial thing. This also, you have to understand, this also, this also connects to the Irish. When the Irish first came to the United States as well, it was the same thing. The Irish were always persecuted by the British. Let's not get that wrong. Even the Italians. So it's not necessarily a racial thing. It's just that people have to understand that there is a standard to everything. And by the fact that we're teaching our kids that it's okay to speak slang and a professional atmosphere, we're doing so much harm to these kids.
Well, many years ago in California, they tried putting Ebonics into the schools, and it was in there for a very short time when they realized, this isn't working, and they took it out.
Exactly.
One thing I also wanted to ask you is about the teaching of history, and how it's been subverted. Because the children are not learning history. They've almost taken it out of the classroom and substituted politics for history.
Yes, that is very much true. I can speak for the district that I work in. History is not even really covered. It's not even covered by, I don't even think the regular teachers know how to really teach history. History is now becoming subjective, rather objective, in the school systems.
Well, then, with history, clearly we're seeing taking down of statues and different things like that throughout the country now. If you don't have the statues, if you don't have the way of showing kids, this is who this person was, this is what he did, and we evolved from it, aren't we doomed to failure?
Exactly. And what the leftists, they don't understand is that we have to teach our kids history happened regardless. There was slavery in the United States, there was slavery in Central America, South America, whatnot. But we have to appreciate it and learn from it. Appreciate it, and we are all intertwined. That's what makes America. What makes America so great is that it's so diverse, and we come from all over the world, and we have to understand that yes, the past had happened, but we got to learn from that, appreciate it, and move forward. We have overcome so much ever since 400 years, 500 years when the slaves first arrived. But it does not mean erasing the fact that, yes, George Washington had slaves. Okay, he had slaves, and that's the past. Let's move on and think about the future.
Yeah, you learn from the mistakes of the past to make the future better. Yeah. And see, that's why even changing the name of the Washington Redskins, first of all, it was an American Indian that helped name the Washington Redskins what they are and helped design the logo. Exactly. I would think it's an honor to have something named after you.
Exactly. And I would like to make this clear that the leftists, they're not about solutions. They're about making illusions that essentially that are false. And that's literally what they run their party off of. And it's mind-boggling how people actually believe it. Like taking images off of packages that people view subjectively as racist. Really, you guys view that as a tactic or a solution? There are bigger issues in this country, and we're talking about syrup. Meanwhile, actually, have you guys heard about this? The family of Aunt Jemima, they're actually upset that people are doing this.
I hadn't heard that, but it makes sense to me. I mean, to me, it's an honor to have a picture of one of your relatives on the box selling something, and
thank you.
How is that racist? I don't get it. Same thing with Uncle Ben's. I mean,
same thing.
You can almost find racism in anything you want. Exactly. If you change the definition to what it really is.
Exactly. And that goes on to what basically I was saying, that racist, the word racist is so subjective now. Like, everyone's racist. Like, what metric are we using to say that someone's racist? Like, I just don't understand. Like, what is race? It's so watered down, the term. I don't even know what it means any longer. What is racist?
I know.
Can you believe that I've been called a racist? Can you believe that?
I have too.
I've been called a racist just because I support Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I'm a racist.
Same here.
I have one last question.
People who don't know me.
Exactly.
One last question.
Yep.
Are you allowed to have flags in your classrooms? And do you say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I say the Pledge of Allegiance. I say it in my classroom every day.
Good for you.
It is not required any longer.
Yeah.
I heard in other districts that they've gotten rid of it. I say it. And actually, at one point in time, and I'll be happy to say this, at one point during the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, when he was on one knee, there are actual students that actually stood on a knee in my classroom, and I said, "Get up."
Good for you.
You are not going to do that in my classroom. Get up.
You, Richard.
And if they had an issue with it, then I'll be happy to explain it to the parents. But we're in my classroom, and we're like, no.
The thing that's interesting about the Colin Kaepernick thing is, can you tell me what other country in the entire world could a guy play football and make the kind of money he's making, or basketball or baseball?
Thank you.
We give these people, and I don't care who you are, white, black, take your pick. We give people an opportunity, and they've taken advantage of it. Where else can you do that? It is so hypocritical that I no longer will watch baseball on television because of what the Red Sox did with the Black Lives Matter thing. And,
exactly.
I won't do it because, to me, they're racist.
Exactly. And I agree with you 100%. 100%. And it's sad. And think about this. I'm an immigrant from Central America, where blacks are literally, if you want to talk about discrimination, if you want to talk about poverty, go to where I'm from. And I pose this question all the time when people say the United States is racist. I say to them, so you tell me one other country in the world where you can see black millionaires and billionaires that's common. I want to know. I want to know. Tell me another country in the world where you see, if you can actually look this up after we're done, the most wealthiest ethnic group in the United States are East Indians. East Indians are the wealthiest ethnic group in the United States. So if the United States is so racist, why I don't understand that. I don't get it. I don't
either.
And yet we're trying to dumb it down. And years ago, this goes back to, say, the 1960s and John Kennedy. The United States had one of the best educational systems in the world.
Exactly.
Ever since the Great Society of Lyndon Johnson, things have gone downhill to the point where in the 60s, black families existed, and 80% of families who were black were married with children.
Yep.
Now, after the Great Society, we're down to 30%.
Yep.
What have we done? We've destroyed the society that we tried to improve, and that's the liberal policy versus conservative.
Exactly, and it's all stemming from Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, if you look it up, one of their core missions is to break down the black family unit. Okay, and they're being extremely successful, and they're pushing the LGBT agenda and trans agenda within the black community. And it is really interesting because I've studied and I looked at the Black Lives Matter website and so forth. They mention everything, in terms of everything is an issue in society. Police officers are all against black people, but not in anywhere in the agenda they talk about black men accountability, bettering black men. None of it. But they want to talk about breaking down the black family unit and so forth. And they're actually in these Democratic-run cities, as we can see, they believe it.
Yes, they do.
They believe it. Look what's happening in Chicago. 70 people shot. Look what's happening in Atlanta. Look what's happening all over our major cities, black cities that are run by who? Not us, by the left.
Yep.
Right. That's one of the things that I've said all along, and one of the reasons why I'm opposed to Black Lives Matter is that they don't care about black lives, because if they did, they'd be in Chicago, they'd be in Los Angeles, they'd be in New York, and they would say, hey, we got to stop killing ourselves.
Exactly.
That's how Black Lives Matter. And,
exactly.
Anyhow, we're running out of time. A half hour goes very quickly when you're having a great conversation.
Wait, was that over already?
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Wow. Okay, good.
But what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, is just wrap things up in your own words as to the education system. You've got about 2 minutes that you can wrap things up.
Well, yeah, I would definitely like to say that, I don't know if you guys know about Malcolm X. And when I heard this quote from Malcolm X, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit. It really touched my heart. And I was like, wow, this makes sense. He had said that essentially that white liberals are destroying America. And the worst thing for Black America are white liberals. And we're seeing this. We're literally seeing this in our education, in our policies, local government, and so forth. And until us, as a silent majority, we actually take a stand and say no, then honestly, if we're silent, if we're not going to take a stand, we're literally going to see our cities crumble, our families crumble. It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. I recommend anyone listening to this, please, if you are conservative, please be vocal. All of us, even me as a Black person, I'm always called a racist. I'm called a coon. I'm called X, Y, and Z. But you know what? I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I know that I'm an independent thinker and I know what's the best. And conservative values need to be put back into our daily lives.
You're absolutely right. Thank you so much for coming on our show, Richard. And we hope that you will come back.
Oh, yes, definitely. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, it was nice to meet you in Zoom, but I'd like to meet you in person sometime. So we'll have to arrange that sometime too.
Definitely will. Thank you very much. I appreciate everything.
All right. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. And we will send you a copy of this when we get it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.